Mayor Brown, are ready.
Okay. I'd like to call the regular meeting of the TXK, Arkansas Board of Directors to order Monday, October the 5th at 4 p.m. Heather, could you call the roll, please?
Director Brewer,
Heather, I'm here.
all right, thank you.
Minor. Okay.
Director Minor,
Here.
Director Peavy,
Here.
Director Teeters,
Here.
Director Harris,
Here.
Director Hollibush, Mayor Brown.
Sorry, I was muted. I'm here.
All right, thank you. And
Did we get Director Teeters?
she's on here. I didn't hear her though.
We
Let me
messaged
see your
her.
phone right quick.
Director Teeters, are you on here? Okay, go ahead and continue, Mayor Brown.
Okay. All right, at this time, we have a proclamation for Black Restaurants Week, October the 11th through the 17th of 2020. This item was added to the agenda at the request of Director Laney Harris. I'll read the proclamation so it become part of the record. TXK, Arkansas, whereas Warren Luckett is the co-founder of Black Restaurant Week initiatives. In 2016, he started introducing culinary businesses and culinary professionals to the community like other major cities do across the states. And whereas the systemic barriers faced by Black-owned restaurants, such as disproportionate access to business loans and other businesses, building resources demonstrates the importance of Black Restaurant Week. And whereas these disparities have only grown with the COVID-19 pandemic, 41% of Black-owned businesses have shuttered since February compared to 17% of white-owned businesses. And whereas through diverse menu selection and virtual events, Black Restaurant Week spotlight restaurateurs, bakers, chefs, caterers, food trucks, and more to celebrate inspired flavors and generate social and economic support for Black culinary communities. And whereas this week, the purpose is to increase public awareness, attain larger exposure, and also bring another level of customers through their doors. Participating restaurants reported a 25 to 40% increase in revenue during each local celebration. And whereas this is an opportunity for everyone to become aware of the role of Black restaurant owners and food providers play throughout the Texarkana area. Now, therefore, I, Alan Brown, Mayor of Texarkana, Arkansas, do hereby proclaim October the 11th through the 17th of 2020 as Texarkana Black Restaurant Week. At this time, I had a couple of meetings with Public Works, and Tyler Richards, and speaking with me last week, wanted to give a brief Public Works update. And I believe Tyler's on the call, and Tyler, I'd be glad for you to do that now if you wish to.
Hey, yes, sir. Good afternoon, everyone. I'll make this real quick, but as you all know, we've had some abnormal rain events this year, which have brought about some drainage concerns. This last event was of an intensity which we haven't seen in 25 plus years, but I wanted to take the time and just let you all know that my staff and I worked diligently on this issue and will continue to do so. We are aware of the problem areas and we're devising a plan to address them. I know many of you have been receiving concern from citizens regarding this, so I just wanted to reassure you that we are coming up with a plan to address it.
I appreciate that. And Tyler, some of that, we're working with Kenny, that's going to be addressed in this 2021 budget?
That is correct. Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Does any board member have any questions for Tyler? Okay. Moving on to our consent agenda. On the consent agenda today, we have the approval of the minutes of the regular rescheduled meeting on September 21st, adopting a resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract for the Sanderson Lane 8-inch sewer main extension project, and adopt a resolution approving an easement for a water line across a small tract of land located at Texarkana Regional Airport. Does any director have any issues with anything on the consent agenda? Anything you want to bring before the board? If not, what's the board's desire on adopting the consent agenda?
Laney Harris, move for adoption.
Stephen Holloway, second.
So we have a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? And the consent agenda passes. So moving right along to our regular agenda, we have three items on our regular agenda today. Item number 5 is to adopt a resolution expressing the intent of the city to participate in the financing of an industrial site, further known as the project, for the purpose of securing and developing industry, authorizing the mayor and the city manager to cooperate with the Public Facilities Board relating to the acquisition of the project, and the issuance of revenue bonds for the purpose of financing and the acquisition of the project, authorizing the mayor and the city manager to negotiate interlocal cooperation agreements with other public agencies related to the cooperative financing of the project, and setting forth other matters and pertaining hereto. Is Jim Fowler, are you with us today?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Would you like me to go forward at this point?
Yes, sir.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. I'm going to address initially both items 5 and 6 because they are related. The purpose of the actions you're being asked to consider is to allow the city to join with the county in acquiring an industrial site for a potential industrial prospect. I'll let the mayor or Rob talk about that in more detail. But the first item you have before you is a resolution expressing the city's intent to go forward with the overall transaction conceptually and to authorize the city officials to negotiate remaining details with other public entities. The city will use the Public Facilities Board's long-term revenue bond authority to pay for the $4.1 million purchase price of the site. And the city and the county, if the county approves the transaction, would lease the site and pay the Facilities Board rent that would pay off the bonds over approximately a 20-year period. The city and the county would have a right to buy the site at any time by paying off the long-term revenue bonds. The first step is for the Facilities Board to pay for an option to buy the site, which cost $100,000. The city would lend the money to the Facilities Board by buying a note issued by the Facilities Board. In the meantime, the Facilities Board would negotiate with a private placement buyer, probably a local bank, to buy the long-term revenue bonds. And when the long-term revenue bonds are issued, the Facilities Board will buy the site and pay off the city's note. That will have to occur before January 31, 2021, according to the terms of the option agreement from the seller of the site. During the next few weeks, the city will negotiate an interlocal cooperation agreement with the county to determine participation terms of the city and the county in the lease and the control of the industrial site. Once the bond purchase and the interlocal agreement are negotiated, this board will be asked for approval of all the final terms in the form of another ordinance. That'll include approval of the lease terms and the interlocal cooperation agreement. If you adopt the resolution showing your intent to participate in the overall transaction, then you'll be asked to adopt the ordinance in item 6, authorizing the purchase of the $100,000 note from the Facilities Board. The facilities board will use the city's money to pay for the option. The facilities board note will mature on January 31 of 2021 or sooner if the bonds are issued before then. And it'll be in the principal amount, as we said, of $100,000, and it will not bear any interest. With that, I'll be happy to answer any questions, but I think the mayor, you may have Rob or somebody wishing to speak at this time.
I do have most of the Ready Board present with me today. A couple of things that I would like to just re-emphasize. One is the $100,000 that the ordinance that will be taken up in item number 6 is a loan to the city and will be repaid back to the city once the revenue bonds and this deal is finalized. And the $100,000 earnest money goes towards the purchase of the property. So I just want to clarify that it is, the Public Facilities Board does not have any money. It acts as the basis as a committee for the city, doesn't have any money, and the option agreement to purchase this property does require earnest money. And that's what the $100,000 in item number 6 will be used for. And it will be returned to the city once the deal is complete. But I would be glad to answer any questions that any board members might have.
Laney Harris, I got one. I'm assuming this is on the Arkansas side, right? You buying land?
Yes.
Okay. But I'm guessing you're not really saying what the land is at for obvious reason, right?
I'm sorry, I didn't catch all that, Director.
You guess you're not saying what the land is at for obvious reason?
I'm sure it will come out sooner or later, but it's it's in Miller County and Texarkana. So.
And you're not even saying what type of business it may be, if it is a business, I'm assuming it's an industrial plant or something.
At this time, there's not anybody that's ready to go to work out there. I can tell you that it's going to remain that way if we don't buy this piece of property. We need some property to market. We need some property for Ready to promote. I think one of the big advantages that I've spent a lot of time on this particular project. I think one of the big advantages that we're going to have going forward is 1,537 acres. There's not another site that we can think of in the whole state of Arkansas that can go out and market 1,537 acres. So however that ends up getting used, whether it's multiple people, one person, is something that we have a chance, in my opinion, to make history today. I don't think anything's been done like this in the history of Texarkana. And you're going to be, instead of not having any property at all, you're going to be one of the top, if not the top, industrial sites the state of Arkansas has to offer.
Do we have any money with this, or there's something looking forward in the budget to go along with this? Or this is the most money, this is the money concept of it?
This would be the concept of using our budgeted money for one of the things going forward to be able to pay for this part. One of the things that I looked at personally and working with finance is that especially entering into an interlocal agreement with the county to help pay for this by finishing up this deal in January of 2021. The city will not be obligated to start our payback on it until January of 2022. We have a few which are pretty good size bond issues that are going to be paying off between now and 2021. That this to me would be a positive impact on the city's budget going forward and not have a negative impact to keep us from doing what we need to be doing going forward.
And my last question or comment here. I know we got a distribution center here in town, FedEx. Would it be somewhat trying to feed off that concept based on saying we got one distribution center here? We got 4 highways coming through this area, 2 interstate and an airport. we could, in our location of Texarkana, we could say we could try to come to distribution center of the United States. So, and I guess if anyone want to comment on that or not, but I was just making a comment on that. That's all I got to say.
Just real
Say
quick.
if we get this property bought, we're gonna have that opportunity.
Absolutely, Mayor, just interjecting real quickly. Director Harris, you're right. I think everything you said about the opportunity, and that's all we're looking for is an opportunity to put this city in a position to be successful. And just one quick note, it's not necessarily the project, it's actually project success. That's what the Public Facilities Board has named this project, and we're certainly looking forward to moving forward. We appreciate everybody for their attendance and actually listening in on this.
Is there any other discussion from any board member pertaining to item number 5, this resolution? If not, I would instruct the city attorney to read the resolution.
A resolution expressing the intent of the city of Texarkana, Arkansas to participate in the financing of an industrial site, which is the project for the purpose of securing and developing industry, authorizing the mayor and city manager to cooperate with the city of Texarkana, Arkansas Public Facilities Board relating to the acquisition of the project and the issuance of revenue bonds for the purpose of financing the acquisition of the project, authorizing the mayor and city manager to negotiate one or more interlocal cooperation agreements with other public agencies relating to the cooperative financing of the project and setting forth other matters pertaining thereto. Whereas the City of Texarkana, Arkansas Public Facilities Board proposes to issue capital improvement facilities revenue bonds and its bond anticipation note for the purpose of financing the acquisition of land for lease to the City of Texarkana, Arkansas for the purpose of securing and developing industry. And whereas the acquisition of the project by the Facilities Board was requested by the city to enable the city to offer the project as an incentive for securing and developing industry. And whereas the current owner of the project has offered the Facilities Board an option to purchase the project on terms which provide for an option price of $100,000, an exercise price of $4,100,000, and an option expiration of December 31, 2020. And whereas the Facilities Board intends to issue BAN to finance the cost of the option price. Whereas the Facilities Board intends to issue bonds to repay the BAN, finance the cost of the exercise price, and to pay for the cost of issuing the bonds. And whereas the city proposes to facilitate the acquisition of the project by the Facilities Board by purchasing the BAN from the Facilities Board and entering into a lease agreement with the Facilities Board, providing for lease payments sufficient to pay the debt service on the bonds and other costs of the Facilities Board related to its ownership of its project. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Board of Directors of the City of Texarkana, Arkansas, that Section 1, such preliminary actions as are determined to be necessary by the mayor and city manager are hereby authorized for the acquisition of the project, provided that subject to the adoption of this resolution and ordinance authorizing the purchase of the BAN by the city in the principal amount of $100,000 will be submitted for approval by the Board of Directors, and at such time as the mayor and city manager may determine to be in the best interest of the city. When the final terms of the bonds have been determined, the form of the lease shall be submitted for approval by the Board of Directors. The approval of the lease may be considered at a regular or special meeting of the Board of Directors as the mayor shall consider appropriate. Section 2, the mayor and the city manager are authorized to solicit cooperation by other local public agencies whose public purposes are served by the project and as co-leasees under the lease or otherwise. The mayor and city manager are authorized to negotiate such cooperation with other public agencies pursuant to an interlocal cooperation agreement as provided in the Arkansas Interlocal Cooperation Act and Arkansas Code Annotated 2520-101 at sequence. And the mayor and city manager are authorized to submit a form of the cooperation agreement to the Attorney General as required by the Cooperation Act, provided, however, that prior to execution and becoming effective, the form of an interlocal cooperation agreement will be submitted for approval by the Board of Directors. This resolution shall be effective from and after the date of its adoption, passed and approved this 5th day of October 2020.
Okay, the board has heard the city attorney read the resolution. Is there any other comments prior to voting? If not, what's the board's desire on the adoption of this resolution?
Stephen Hollowbush, motion to adopt.
Lady Harris, second.
Do I have a motion and a second to adopt the resolution? Heather, could you call the roll, please?
Brewer,
Yes.
Minor,
Yes.
Peavy,
Yes.
Teeters, Harris,
Yes.
Hollowbush,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes. And the resolution passes. Moving on to item number 6, adopt an ordinance authorizing the purchase of the Public Facilities Board bond anticipation note for the purpose of an industrial site for developing industry. Do you want to say anything else about that, Jim?
Not really. I'll just put in that the way this was sequenced, we wanted the board to express its intent for the transaction generally. And because it's coming to you in pieces, had that done first and then the ordinance for the bond anticipation note to follow. So that's what this is about, and don't have anything else to add.
Does any board member have any questions concerning to the adoption of this ordinance before we vote? This is an ordinance. It'll have to be read. Doesn't have to be read, but it'll have to be to pass. It has to be read 3 times. It can be read all 3 times tonight. An emergency clause is requested with this particular ordinance. So what is the board's desire to have the ordinance placed on its first reading?
Mayor, I have one question about
Okay.
the emergency clause. Whether or not that emergency clause passes tonight, how does that affect this land deal that is potentially out there?
The emergency clause, if it's not passed, then we would be delayed an additional 2 months. It would be 90 days before we could begin pursuing financing options on the property. So it's imperative that we can begin that process, in my opinion, and not waste another. It's actually, we can take it, if we get it passed tonight, we can start taking care of our business. If not, we'll have to wait 90 days for that. Fowler, Jim, you want to say anything about that?
No, I think you covered it.
So it's pretty pertinent that we go ahead and get this emergency clause passed too, so that we can get down to business.
That's correct.
All right, that's all I've got. Thank you.
All right, any other discussion?
I
If
move
not,
that it be read.
go ahead.
Oh, well, I guess you need to ask. I would say I move read in abbreviated form.
Okay. So we have a motion to have the ordinance read on its first reading in its abbreviated form. Any other discussion? If not, could you call the roll, please?
need a second.
Oh,
Stephen
Nate, I'm
Hollowbush,
sorry.
second. I'll second that.
Okay.
Thank you. Brewer, Minor,
Yes.
Peavy,
Yes.
Teeters, Harris,
Yes.
Hollowbush,
Yes.
Brown.
Yes.
An ordinance of the City of Texarkana, Arkansas, authorizing the purchase not to exceed $100,000 principal amount of City of Texarkana, Arkansas Public Facilities Board bond anticipation notes, the proceeds of which will be used to acquire an industrial site for the purpose of securing and developing industry and declaring an emergency.
Okay, the ordinance has been read on its first reading. Is there a motion to have the ordinance read on its second reading today?
Stephen
Director.
Hollowbush, motion for second reading, abbreviated form.
Is there a second?
Director Brewer, second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Could you call the roll, please?
Brewer,
Yes.
Minor,
Yes.
Peavy,
Yes.
Teeters, Harris,
Yes.
Hollabush,
Yes.
Brown.
Yes.
An ordinance of the City of Texarkana, Arkansas, authorizing the purchase not to exceed $100,000 principal amount of City of Texarkana, Arkansas Public Facilities Board bond anticipation notes, the proceeds of which will be used to acquire an industrial site for the purpose of securing and developing industry and declaring an emergency.
Okay, the ordinance has been read on its second reading today. Is there a motion to have the ordinance read on its third and final reading today?
Director Brewer, suspend the rules and have the abbreviated form in the third and final reading.
Stephen Hollabush, second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to have it read on its third and final reading. Could you call the roll, please?
Brewer,
Yes.
Minor,
Yes.
Peavy,
Yes.
Teeters, Harris,
Yes.
Hollabush,
Yes.
Mayor Brown.
Yes.
An ordinance of the City of Texarkana, Arkansas, authorizing the purchase not to exceed $100,000 principal amount of City of Texarkana, Arkansas Public Facilities Board bond anticipation notes, the proceeds of which will be used to acquire an industrial site for the purpose of securing and developing industry and declaring an emergency.
Okay, the ordinance has been read on its third and final reading today. Is there a motion to adopt?
Director Brewer, make a motion to adopt the ordinance.
Director Peavy, second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to adopt. Prior to the board voting, is there anyone that wishes to address the board in favor or against this particular ordinance prior to the board voting? Hearing none, could you call the roll, please?
Brewer,
Yes.
Minor,
Yes.
Peavy,
Yes.
Teeters, Harris,
Yes.
Hollabush,
Yes.
Brown.
Yes. So the ordinance passes. This ordinance, so we've asked that an emergency clause be attached to this ordinance. What is the board's desire on attaching an emergency clause with this particular ordinance?
Stephen Hollabush, motion to enact the emergency clause.
Okay, we have a
Director.
motion. Is there a second? I'm sorry, is there a second?
Yes. Director Brewer.
Director Brewer seconded. So we have a motion and second to enact an emergency clause. Is there any other discussion? If not, could you call the roll, please?
Brewer, Director Brewer,
Yes.
Minor,
Yes.
Peavy,
Yes.
Teeters, Harris,
Yes.
Hollabush,
Yes.
Yes.
Brown.
So the ordinance is adopted and the emergency clause is attached. One other item we have on our regular agenda today is item number 7, adopting a resolution authorizing the purchase of a 2021 Ford Explorer for the Texarkana, Arkansas Police Department K-9 unit. I believe James Atchley, are you on with us today?
No, Mayor. It's going to be myself and Services Commander Lieutenant Magnuson.
Who's myself?
Hi, I'm Interim Chief of Police Christy Bennett.
See, I know you. Okay. Does anybody have any questions concerning this adoption of this resolution for Chief Bennett? Okay, what is the board's desire on the adoption of this resolution?
Director Peavy, I move that we adopt.
Stephen
Great.
Hollabush, second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt the resolution. Is there any other discussion? If not, could you call the roll, please?
Mayor, if you wouldn't, I'll read it very
Oh,
quickly.
I'm sorry. Got ahead of myself.
Whereas due to ongoing reliability, maintenance, and operating issues, it is necessary to replace the existing Texarkana, Arkansas Police Department K9 unit vehicle. And whereas in keeping with the transition of the fleet to hybrid vehicles, replacement being a 2021 Ford Explorer hybrid model with rear air is available to purchase through McClarty Ford at a price of $35,803. And whereas such purchase complies with Arkansas Code Annotated 1458-104, and whereas the funds are available in TAPD budget line item 510010, and whereas the city manager and staff recommend approval, now therefore be it resolved by the that the city manager is authorized to execute a contract and take such action as required to acquire the vehicle described above and upon the terms and so indicated. And further, the FY 2020 budget is amended accordingly for the above described reallocation and expense, passed and approved this 5th day of October 2020.
Okay. We've heard the resolution. Is there any other discussion? If not, I would entertain a motion to approve.
Barbara Minor, motion to approve the resolution.
Stephen Holder, second.
I have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? If not, could you call the roll, please?
Brewer,
Yes.
Minor,
Here. Yes.
Peavy,
Yes.
Teeters, Harris,
Yeah.
Hallbush,
Yes.
Mayor Brown.
Yes. So the resolution passes. At this time, we'll move into citizens communication time. I'm aware of two people that wishes to address the board today. I would just like to say that prior to them speaking, it's Rob Sitterly with the Ready Board as well as Sonia Hubbard. It's been great to work with the Ready Board. I do serve on that board of directors. This is going to be an exciting time for us at Texarkana, Arkansas. Now that when we get this deal finished between now and the end of the year, that we're going to have an exceptional piece of property to market for industrial development. And it really wouldn't have been possible without all the effort that they've gone through in helping us put this deal together. And I just want to say for the record, I really appreciate working with Rob and that board for doing that. So at this time, I'm going to ask Rob Sitterly Sonia Hubbard wishes to address the board first.
Okay, well, thank you. And Mayor and council members, I want to say how excited we are and thank you for your continued support of our Tex Ready and your continued buy-in when it comes to economic development. We are grateful that you understand the importance of having some publicly owned land to market and promote. The city's willingness to bring this project to fruition shows the commitment to doing what it takes to be competitive in today's economic development environment. But please understand that Ready's work does not end with securing the property. On behalf of the board members represented here with me and those who could not attend, we want to give our commitment that we will work hard to get this site certified and that we won't rest until we have filled it with high-paying jobs. So thank you so much for giving us this opportunity.
Thank you, Rob.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council. And again, I really, really appreciate all you've done for economic development and for us, the Ready team. If I could I'll just list who's here in attendance. Carrie Patterson, who is Vice Chair of our board. Dean Barry, who is the gentleman that started Ready, that got the group together. Leslie Ledwell from Ledwell. And James Henry Russell from BWI, former TC president. We can't thank you enough. You all are trailblazers. You took the time to understand what we're trying to do and understood that without your financial backing to purchase this property, none of this would have been possible. And so as trailblazers, we thank you over and over and over again. Sonia touched on it for a minute. You know, this is just the start, but super hopeful that we've got an incredible piece of property with a ton of assets that are really going to sell our property. Director Harris mentioned, I mean, we are so connected. Our infrastructure from road, rail, and air is really second to none. A lot of communities start with land and then have to build the roads, the rail, and those sort of things to the property. We've got a piece that already has all of that. So we've got interstate frontage and highway frontage. Great piece of property that is super committed from our governor, Governor Asa Hutchinson, to our Secretary of Commerce, Mike Preston. Both are aware of the property. Both are excited to see what we can do with it with their partnership. So thank you from the bottom of all of our hearts for your time, energy, and commitment to this endeavor. Thank you.
Is there anyone else that wishes to address the board during citizens communication time?
This is Director Peavy, and I would like to say that even though this COVID coronavirus has slowed our nation down, it's really encouraging to see how hard, Rob, you guys have been working so that when we come out of this, we will be in a better position to market ourselves and be forward looking into the future. And just on my behalf, I want to thank you all for just working so hard during this time.
Thank you. Thank you, Director Peavy.
All right, anyone else? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Stephen Halbush, motion to adjourn.
Second. Pardon me, was there a second, Brewer?
Yes, that's
Okay.
correct.
So we have a motion and a second to adjourn. Could you call the roll, please?
Brewer,
Yes.
Minor,
Yes.
Peavy,
Yes.
Teeters, Harris, Hollabush,
Yes.
Brown.
Yes, we're adjourned. Thank you all.